Okay, so thank you for those who could make it. Today we have our special guest, Nicole VanQuaethem, who is a registered holistic nutritionist with Simply Nick Nutrition, and will be going through some information for us as individuals loosen their health habits, I think, during the pandemic. And I'll do a little bit of an intro. I found an interesting article last night. I was looking through The Economist and came across this graph here. They were talking about haircuts and popularity of Google searches on certain topics. So you can kind of see the increase in the search for hair clippers over the past couple of months. And we probably fit into that category. We didn't buy hair clippers for us, but we did buy them for our dog. Because not only can we not get haircuts right now, our dogs can't either. So Winston was starting to look a little hairy, so we ended up buying some hair clippers online. So we're probably part of that statistic. Luckily, my mother-in-law was off work for over 2 weeks and was self-isolating, so I got a little bit of a haircut from her until the barber shops open up again. So interesting to see the increase in beards, mustaches, scissors, hair clippers, and a decrease in bangs and perms. Interesting to note too is, let me see if I can get this laser pointer working. Hairdressers, right? Now that we see things are starting to open up again, or at least discussion of things opening up again, there's that increase in people searching for hairdressers, a decrease in those searches for things like hair clippers as people realize, okay, maybe I don't have to do it myself soon. So I thought, how does this fit in with nutrition? It'd be interesting to see what the search terms around nutrition looked like during this period of time. So this morning I went on to Google Trends to kind of take a look and see what the search terms looked like. You can see this is for the past 90 days. On the top, we have the search term diet, and on the bottom, exercise. You can kind of see a little bit of a drop there. March 11th, when the WHO announces that this is indeed a pandemic, people starting to stay at home more, maybe throwing the diet idea out the window for a little while, and then things do gradually start to pick up again. At the very end there, that's May 8th. Articles starting to come out about reopening, people maybe starting to feel a little bit more active again, knowing that, okay, spring's coming, things are starting to open up. Maybe it's time to start thinking about health and diet again. The next slide I found interesting, and maybe Nicole, you can touch on this, and maybe if you do this a lot on your end. This is the 5-year average. It looks more like a heartbeat, coincidentally, and you see big spikes in January, and then people lose hope throughout the year until January comes again, and then we see a nice big spike again. And then I jokingly put in there March 15th to March 21st of this year, which was the lowest point in the last 5 years, where people just said, forget it. I'm throwing this out the window. And that's kind of why we've got Nicole here today to speak a little bit about health and nutrition during a time when maybe that's not our key focus right now. But I'm sure you'll tell us why it is something that we should be thinking about. So with that in mind, I will pass it over. I'm going to stop my screen share here.
Okay.
And I will pass it over to you, Nicole.
Perfect. See me switching slides.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure it works. Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting data. And it's kind of funny because I think most businesses at the start of this pandemic definitely saw a huge shift. And I did too. I think people went to panic mode. I don't want to spend money. I just want to focus on the bare necessities. And then I've been talking to a lot of people actually in the last week and a half. And I'm starting to see that interest again because they've been sitting at home, and they said to me, Yeah, I've been sitting at home and I've been kind of reflecting on a lot of things, and I realized that I really need to learn how to like eat healthier and cook better, because I don't really know how to do that, because I all of a sudden I'm stuck at home and I'm having to do this all day for every meal. So I kind of find that interesting how I think now people are starting to realize that they need to focus on this. And I think also the overall, the actual virus itself and supporting your immune health and your overall, nutrition and well-being is starting to come a little bit more to the forefront of people's minds as we progress, because, this could maybe happen again in the future. So I think people are starting to really understand the importance of taking care of their bodies. So I'm going to do a chat about nutrition, wellness basics. So I like to talk a lot about, how to build healthy meals, what's included in that, what are some simple swaps that you can make in your everyday cooking, where to get them at the grocery store. Like, it's so easy for me to be like, oh, eat healthier, cook with these ingredients, but I find a lot of people are overwhelmed just by simply grocery shopping. And then I included some slides, and if we have time, I'll definitely touch on them, more in relation to what's happening right now. So focusing on stress and gut health, because gut health is really linked to your immune health as well, and also boosting your energy, because I find a lot of people notice that they are a lot more sluggish when they're working at home because they're not getting up and they're not moving as often, and they're just not in their regular routine. So if we have time, I will definitely touch on that, but I'm going to give you guys all the slides. So if we don't get to all that content, then no big deal. You can read all about it on your own. So Simply Nick Nutrition. So my business, I focus on coaching individuals one-on-one to help them achieve short and long-term health goals, typically around gut health. I do this again through the coaching, custom menu plans, and workshops. So a little bit about me. I tell people I have a little bit of a strange background. I actually did my undergrad in global studies, and after traveling for quite a long time and, getting sick a couple times, being away from my family for a few months, I realized that I didn't really want to pursue that as my career anymore. And I actually got really interested in local food systems. I was studying a lot about food security in other countries, but I really found that my interest was in southwestern Ontario, especially because I actually grew up on a farm and I had family, who went through the whole tobacco industry, growing that, and having to transition over time. So into grad school, I actually did my master's in rural planning and development, which again, not to do with nutrition, but during my studies, I again focused on local food systems and actually did a lot of research on food access and nutrition in northern communities. So this whole time I was really interested in nutrition, but I just never really went for it. And my interest kind of started back when I was a kid. So I actually had a lot of digestive issues. And, after going to the doctor and being told that, just take a pill and it's going to be fine and just do that for the rest of your life. And eventually I started getting headaches every day. My doctors told me to take an Advil every day for my headaches and migraines. Myself and my family got fed up, went into high school and I still was feeling terrible every single day. So I reached out to a holistic nutritionist myself in my first year of university. And even just with the smallest tweaks, I felt drastically better. And you have to also understand too at this time that I didn't really know how to cook for myself. So I'm like first year university, learning how to make stuff on my own. So that also helped a lot as well. But yeah, it was really enlightening for me. And then that kind of led me down this deep, dark rabbit hole of research on nutrition and gut health. And I realized that it was truly my passion and that I wanted to pursue this so I could help other people also feel good for making those simple changes in their diet. So again, today, I'm going to go over healthy eating basics, how to build balanced meals, simple swaps, and then hopefully we have time to touch on that gut health piece and boosting energy naturally. And then I have one slide at the end, just, some fun tips about staying healthy when you're working from home, because I don't know about you, but I find it can be a little bit too easy to walk over to the fridge when you're getting a little bored or you're getting sick of doing work, right? You're like, maybe I just need a snack. And you're like, do I really need a snack? And I also know it's hard too. Personally, I'm only going grocery shopping every couple of weeks, right? So how do we cook healthy meals when we can't just run to the grocery store when we forget an ingredient? I find that's been challenging, but I've definitely found some really great ways in order to kind of maximize my grocery shopping trip over a couple of weeks. And I think I can bring up the chat function here. So I don't think there's a large group. So if you want to just, or even just talk out loud and ask me questions throughout, I'm totally open to that. So, or if I don't see your question, then just kind of wave me down and I can answer those.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah, I'll also keep an eye on email. So if anybody wants to send me an email
yes,
or their chat function, whatever you're comfortable with.
for sure. Yes, I'm happy to answer questions as we go. So I'm going to start with macronutrients, and I know that kind of sounds maybe like a little bit of a scary word. We're going to go back to like kind of high school science days. So those are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. And I'm not someone who counts calories or counts macros. That's a really popular thing to do in the health and fitness world. I just like talking about them as a way to help you understand what you want to include on your plate at each meal. Just, break it down really simply. So the first one I want to talk about is protein. So protein is essential for a lot of functions in our body. One thing I do like to note is if you are deficient in protein, you might be suffering from things like fatigue, muscle wasting, poor memory, blood sugar fluctuations, which is a big one, which we'll talk about probably a couple times during this presentation, and poor immune function. And that's something that we obviously really want to focus on right now. And there's a lot of misinformation around protein. You either see people go from one extreme to the other, see people maybe doing vegan diets not properly. You can still have enough protein on a vegan diet, but not getting enough on that end, or some people who are, eating like steaks all the time and doing those like intense like protein shakes. So if you have no idea how much protein you need in a day, just honestly Google like protein calculation, and that's just based on your body weight and height. But I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. It doesn't take into account like your genetics, your personal physiology, how active you are. It's just like a good base number if you literally have absolutely no idea how much protein you need in a day. One other thing I like to note is that protein is made up of amino acids, and there are 9 that are essential, meaning that we can't get them, our body can't make them on their own, so that means we have to get them from our diet. And if you eat meat, then you are fine. Beef, poultry, all those things contain those 9 essential amino acids. If you are plant-based or don't eat a lot of animal protein, you just want to make sure that you're getting a wide variety of healthy proteins in your diet, so you are getting those essential amino acids. So if you just typed in like protein combining on Google, you'll find lots of different options. So that can include things like black beans and brown rice. Even quinoa actually is one of the only plant-based sources of protein that has all of those 9 essential amino acids. So that's a really great staple in your diet if you are plant-based, vegan, vegetarian. The next one I want to talk about is fats. So fats, I feel like there's a lot of conflicting information about fats right now, and I'm going to say pretty confidently that that has to do with the keto diet. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, maybe you've heard it. And the keto diet's interesting because it was actually it was discovered as a way to help children with epilepsy, and also for people with stage 3-4 cancer, to help starve off cancer cells. And then obviously today, if you read anything on like Instagram or Facebook or in the media, keto diet's something that's really blown up as something that people are just doing their everyday lives. And although it can help with some things like weight loss and blood sugar, it can be really dangerous. So it's interesting because then I also feel like I joke, it's before my time, but then there's the Atkins diet, right? Which was like low fat, I believe, like everything. So there's a lot of conflicting information. I feel like it also depends on, the generation that you're in. Keto right now is Atkins in the past. So one thing I just like to tell people is that fat is just a really basic nutrient that we all need. You don't want to fear it, but you also don't need to go to any extremes. So what I tell people is don't forget that it is used for things like padding and insulation for your internal organs. It's used to produce hormones such as cholesterol. Cholesterol is one of those things, that we're all really scared of, but cholesterol is actually really important, obviously in moderation in our body, supporting our nervous system. So people that have issues with, maybe brain function might not be getting enough healthy fats in their diet. And then you also need it to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamins A, D, E, and K. So it's interesting because a lot of people will cut out fat when they're trying to, eat healthy, when in reality, they're actually not absorbing the nutrients from those foods like the salads and the grain bowls and all that good stuff because they're not incorporating any healthy fats with that. So you want to make sure that you're adding healthy fats to all your meals and snacks. It's also really good for balancing your blood sugar. And one thing I do like to also quickly mention are essential fatty acids. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the term, but essentially, well, your body can't produce them on their own, so that means they have to come from your diet. We typically have no problem getting omega-6 fatty acids because those are found in things like fried foods, the oils that they typically use. However, we tend to struggle getting omega-3 fatty acids, and I won't get into like all the science and stuff behind it, but if you eat like fatty fish, like salmon, things like that, 4+ times a week, you're probably fine. But I'm going to assume that most of us probably don't eat that much fatty fish in a given day. So I also recommend just taking an omega-3 supplement just once or twice a day. So other things where you can get healthy fats: nuts and seeds, or nut and seed butters, plant-based sources of milk, coconut oil, coconut butter, ghee, animal protein, avocado oil, really great for cooking, olives, olive oil, and did I say actual avocados? Because that's like my go-to. I pretty much will just add guacamole to everything. So the last one I want to talk about is carbohydrates. And again, there's a lot of really interesting information about carbohydrates. I feel like a lot of fear right now because things like the keto diet and the paleo diet, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the paleo diet, so it's more of a low carb, high protein diet, whereas keto is the really high fat diet, like no carbs. But carbohydrates are the main source of energy for our bodies and our brain. So people that cut out carbs also find that they have some neurological issues. And carbs are obviously, we know that they're pretty easy to get, right? I don't think that's an issue for most of us. But one thing to note too is that carbohydrates are also in fruits and vegetables. So if you are thinking that you want to go on a low carb diet, then be mindful that you might be cutting out some really important foods from your diet. Now, there's what I like to call maybe good versus bad carbohydrates. And I don't like to villainize like bad carbohydrates. I'm all for balance, enjoying pizza when you're out with your friends the odd time and, enjoying like a delicious baked good. But in your everyday cooking, the better sources of carbs are like your whole grains, like brown rice, quinoa, again, the fruits and vegetables, and, just healthier sources of, breads and pastas, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I like to give people homework on every one of my presentations because I'm just mean like that. I'll give you a nice little handout to help you guys, but basically it's just an exercise I like to do to help you learn how to make balanced meals. So essentially you're going to write down the categories, which I'm going to show on the next slide, and don't worry, you'll have these slides to reference, and then you're going to pick a base. So this could be anything like a salad base, a grain, maybe you could even do use this as like a smoothie, so maybe your base is your liquid like water or milk. And then you're going to add at least one healthy fat and protein and carb. And your carb might be something that you include in your base, like brown rice, but you can also add more. Don't be scared to also add sweet potato. All these foods are really healthy and have a lot of nutrients in them which are good for you. And then you're going to choose your flavor, so that's totally up to you. And then add anything else that you want. So, if you want to add some fermented foods like sauerkraut, which I know is an acquired taste, but I highly recommend, maybe nuts and seeds or fresh fruit. So, one example, these are just some high-level examples. Obviously, the veggies, that was a long, long list, and you can pick as many as you want. My go-to example is picking a base like quinoa or brown rice, and then adding a healthy fat in the form of guacamole again. It's the second time I mentioned it. I don't know how many times I've mentioned guacamole in this presentation. Then protein, so you could do a black bean or maybe ground beef or chicken, a starch or a carb. So I love doing roasted sweet potato with cumin and paprika, and chili powder. And then vegetables, maybe some sauteed onion and bell pepper, and then whatever things you want to add on top. So maybe some salsa and pico de gallo, maybe some hot sauce if that's your thing. So you can see it's a really easy exercise. I just encourage you to do it multiple times, and then you'll have a bunch of different meals for you to go off of. So this is where I like to spend some time, because I find a lot of people have questions about what to get at the grocery store, what brands, where to find this stuff. So again, flag me down if you have any questions as I'm going through this chart. So these are just some simple swaps that you can make in your everyday cooking. So instead of using your regular flour, I feel like a lot of people are on this like baking bandwagon right now. Like the amount of people I follow who are making like sourdough bread right now and like baked goods galore because they have nothing else to do. I mean, I get it, it's fun, but maybe we can try to find some healthier options to help pass the time. I recommend using things like chickpea, coconut, cassava, quinoa, brown rice, or almond flour. Some of them are more expensive, so by no means am I saying that you have to use these. But like, for example, my husband actually made banana bread for the first time ever yesterday, and he used coconut flour, and it was delicious. So, you know, it's something that's not going to spike my blood sugar as much as like a bleached white flour. Fresh cold pressed juice instead of store-bought juice. I know it's so convenient to be able to just grab some like Tropicana orange juice, but those things are typically really high in sugar, so you just want to be mindful of that. Store-bought granola bars versus making them on your own. If you go to my blog, there's tons of recipes for like energy balls and things like that, so I recommend you check that out. And you can also make a big batch and freeze them for, you know, weeks afterwards, so you're not doing it all the time. Doing a spreaded protein powder or collagen. If you're not familiar with collagen, it's very popular right now, and you can find a lot of brands online. So if any questions about that, just feel free to send me an email afterwards or put it in the chat function. And I just say this as an alternative because a lot of people love going to like, is it like GNC and like Popeye? Is it like Popeyes? I think is actually one of the protein like places, and like they have like warning signs on their protein powders. So maybe you stay away from the ones that have like the tape across them and like the crazy lettering. They're typically filled with a lot of chemicals and additives. And then, you know, you want to have like pizza night, then maybe try doing a cauliflower or sprouted wrap pizza. There's lots of paleo crust options out there that are just free of refined, you know, flour and things like that. Coconut ice cream over regular ice cream. I'm not saying that coconut ice cream is like the healthiest thing ever. It still has like added, you know, sugars and stuff like that in there. But as a nice treat, especially if you have a dairy sensitivity, then maybe try an alternative like that. Potato chips, again, not like these are like the healthiest thing either, but, you know, maybe some roasted chickpeas, root vegetable-based chips, and then regular Jell-O versus like a collagen homemade Jell-O. You can find lots of recipes online for those. And then quickly on this slide, dairy-free chocolate chips over maybe just some of your regular ones. Goat or nut cheese. Goat cheese is something that people typically have an easier time digesting over a cow's milk. So if you have a dairy sensitivity, maybe try goat milk before completely getting rid of cheese altogether. Instead of like processed peanut butter is actually really susceptible to mold, which can aggravate digestive issues. So maybe try one of these other alternatives. There's lots in like the health food section at like your typical like Loblaws, Superstore, Zehrs, those type of grocery stores. You can make homemade popcorn with ghee. You can see there's grain options. Pasta, instead of white pasta, you could try chickpea, lentil, brown and white rice, or quinoa pasta. I don't know if anyone's tried chickpea or lentil pasta. It is definitely a different texture, but it's really high in protein. So if you're looking for like a lazy mac and cheese that you don't want to feel like as guilty about, then I recommend doing like a chickpea pasta, because you can just throw some veggies in there and not have to worry about like cooking any type of like meat for your protein source. And then coconut oil, avocado oil, ghee, olive oil over processed oils and margarine. Another thing to note too is a lot of people don't understand that there's different smoke points for different oils. And even olive oil, although it's really healthy and I highly encourage you to incorporate in your diet, it's not good for frying things at high temperatures. So you want to stick to an avocado oil or a coconut oil to avoid it going rancid. Rolled oats over quick oats, sprouted bread over sourdough over traditional white bread. I always joke, there's like the bread in the grocery store. Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but I used to always have it as a kid. But I think it has like a farmer on it with like a pitchfork. And there's like, you know, the tractor in the background. You're like, well, this must be healthy. Like, look at this happy farmer on the package, right? Or it says like things like words like quinoa on it. And you're like, well, I'm pretty sure quinoa is healthy, so this bread must be good for me. But if you actually look at the ingredients, quinoa is like one of like the last ingredients on the list, meaning that there's not that much in there. So just watch out for tricky marketing with these companies. They like to use nice images and keywords like that in order to kind of suck you in and make you think that it's healthy. Kombucha over, pop, for example. Kombucha is a fermented beverage. Homemade dressings or paleo dressings. There's a really great brand called Primal Kitchen that you can get online, and it's all sugar-free dressings. And then, some sugar alternatives, and then maybe sea salt over table salt. Does anyone have any questions so far? We're good? All right. And how am I doing for time? I know we started a little bit later.
Yeah, good. Sorry, I just had to unmute myself. I think we're okay.
Okay.
How much more time do you think it will be?
I can do the digestive piece in 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
There were a couple things on there that I just recently learned about. One of them was collagen, which I got a little bit of information from my wife Rita on. One was that we lose the ability to produce it as we age, and therefore we need it from an outside source. And the second thing I was interested to learn is what it is actually made of. So perhaps you could share that.
I can share that. I don't know if you're going to like my answer. Yes, it is true. We do produce less collagen as we age. So that's when we start to get things, like wrinkles and maybe some creaky bones. And that's it's also a natural part of aging, right? It's not like that's bad that your bones are maybe not as good as they used to be, or you're starting to get wrinkles. And there's a lot of conflicting information on collagen too. So they say that it's really good for skin, hair, and nails. And some people notice benefits, and I don't know if it's a placebo effect or not. But there isn't a ton of concrete research to say, yes, consuming collagen every day will help with these things. With that being said, I just like it as a cleaner source of protein instead of it's literally one ingredient, it's collagen, right? Instead of collagen and all these added things and unnecessary vitamins, which I find that a lot of protein powder companies do. So collagen is actually the most abundant form of protein in our bodies. And you typically get it on this, when you buy it from the store, it's typically will say bovine or fish, bovine meaning cows. So it's the collagen from their bones and in their bodies, not to gross you out. So if you're vegan, vegetarian, I'm so sorry about this. But it's honestly, I'm someone who doesn't prescribe to any diet. And there's actually things like organ meats and stuff like that, which are actually extremely nutrient dense. They're just obviously not as mainstream here in North America. And things like collagen, if you actually know what it's made of, you might be a little grossed out. So that's why I usually don't tell people.
Yeah, I wouldn't. We looked at the ingredient list, and it is just one ingredient, collagen, and then in brackets it says fish skin. I was like, yum, powdered fish skin.
Yeah, so the fish is a little bit different. And there's pros and cons apparently to fish versus the bovine collagen, but for the most part, the most common one is one from cows. But if you are vegetarian, then you could consider doing the fish one. Let me see. Oh, I got an ew. Yeah. Hey, this is why I usually don't. I just say collagen's good. I'm not going to tell you how it's made, okay? So I can go over the digestive health basics. I can wrap that up pretty quick. And the rest you guys can just read on your own and always follow up with me. My contact information's on the slide, so I'm happy to answer questions after the fact. So the reason why I love talking about digestive health basics is because, well, I call myself a gut health coach. So I coach people on how to support their digestive issues and their gut health. Even if you don't have any apparent gut health issues, I think it's something that everyone should focus on just because it impacts so many other functions in our body. So some really high-level digestive health basics. I like to tell people to drink lots of water. We typically don't drink enough, and we typically drink too much coffee, which I'm guilty of it as well sometimes. I always show people my really obnoxious water bottle. I have a couple of these. No, it's not cool at all. It's a liter, but it's clear, so I can see how much water I've been drinking throughout the day.
How many do you have?
Okay, so I drink about 3 of these a day. And that's going to depend on the person. If you're more active, obviously you're going to need more water. If you drink a lot of coffee, you're going to need more water because you're also dehydrating yourself. So just keep that in mind. If you don't want to drink as much water, maybe don't drink as much coffee, as much as it hurts me to say that, because I love coffee.
That's 1 liter, so 3 liters a day?
Yes, so I do 3 of these. Yeah, 3 liters. Another thing, eat a diet obviously rich in whole foods and probiotic rich foods, which I'll touch on in a bit. Practice mindful eating, eating a diet high in fiber, exercise regularly, which I think we all know we need to do, right? But it's also good for gut health, and reducing stress, which I'll talk about shortly. So some common complaints that I get with clients include abdominal cramping, and bloating, gas, belching, heartburn, skin issues, nail health, brain fog, headaches, constipation, food sensitivities, joint pain, weight gain or loss, and anxiety. So you can see how there's a ton of things that are related to gut health imbalances. And the common causes typically revolve around stress, number 1. So it's interesting because a lot of people, since this pandemic has started, have noticed that, they might have some change in their gut health in terms of bowel movements and appetite and, things like gas and bloating. And it's probably due to whether they realize or not stress. Allergies or food intolerances can also exacerbate gut health issues. Gut health issues can also cause food sensitivity. So it's kind of interesting how that works. Antibiotics or other medications can greatly impact gut health. A lot of people that have been on a round of antibiotics will notice that they're a little bit off for a week or 2 after. Infection, especially if you were traveling somewhere and got sick. Sometimes genetics can play a role, improper chewing, which we'll talk about, and then low stomach acid. So the chewing piece, mindful eating. So this is something that we can all probably do a little bit better, but I encourage you to chew your food until it's complete mush. You want to chew, it's going to sound really intense, but 35 to 45 times depending on the food. And I'm telling you, this is going to be hard when you first start, but what you can do is just pick 1 food on your plate per meal to do this with until you kind of get used to doing it. There's still times when I eat food way too fast, not mindful eating. I'm distracted. I'm in front of a TV. I have my phone beside me, but I encourage you to just sit down without distractions and just chew your food really well. And I have a lot of clients who notice doing that simple step can actually improve their gut health issues pretty quickly. I think my slides are a little delayed here. It's still, oh, now it's going too fast. Okay, so here's some general foods to love. Oh, look, collagen and bone broth. Bone broth is another great way to get the same benefits as like a collagen protein powder. You can make it yourself. There are some companies that make it. I won't get into too much detail. You guys can refer to this list after, but fermented foods are another great one, such as sauerkraut, kimchi, and kombucha. Just be mindful that if you do have certain digestive issues, sometimes fermented foods can actually aggravate it. So just make sure you get support in that side of things. And then foods to limit. Nothing surprising here in terms of coffee and sugar and allergens. And then again, hydration is key. So going back to the obnoxious water bottle, there's a lot of reasons why you should drink water. And obviously I encourage you to get one of these Nalgene water bottles, or there's other brands out there, and maybe add some frozen fruit or cucumber or lemon to make it a little more appealing. And then the last piece, so I want to talk about the stress. What about tea? Yeah, tea is another great option. One of the things that you'll see on the slide is I actually really like peppermint and ginger and chamomile tea for soothing digestive issues. In terms of caffeinated tea, that's going to dehydrate you like it would coffee. So you want to make sure that you're limiting the amount of, caffeinated tea you're having. But if you're drinking herbal teas, then that can replace not all of your water intake. Okay, so the vagus nerve. So it starts in the brain, goes down your neck, to your heart, to your lungs, and your digestive organs. It's our longest cranial nerve, and it actually communicates to our stomach, and vice versa, but typically not as strong from your stomach up. So if it's not working optimally, it can lead to a lot of digestive imbalances. So why is it not working properly? As you can guess, it's stress. Stress seems to be like number one with like most digestive issues. So you just want to make sure that you are, finding ways to manage stress. And it's interesting. So I don't know if you're familiar with the fight or flight response, but essentially, like thousands of years ago, we would be running from things like tigers and like actual dangers. So what happened was our body would shunt all the blood flow to our arms and our legs to run away from this threat instead of going to our stomach to help digest food. And this now happens when we're doing things like sitting in traffic and we're frustrated, or, answering emails, or, maybe talking to our boss or whatever it may be, or dealing with like our kids.
Watching the stock market.
Stock market, yeah. When you're in a pandemic, like learning how to live differently, right? So this chronic stress can really impact your short and long-term health. So, some stress is actually not that bad for our body. It can actually do some good, and releasing cortisol is not the worst thing. It's just when it is happening all of the time. Because our bodies, it can't differentiate between us sitting in our car in traffic and running from a lion, which is kind of crazy that we haven't quite evolved to kind of figure that out yet. So these are some things that you can do to support your vagus nerve. I won't get into all of them, but they're obviously pretty self-explanatory in terms of, stress management, deep breathing, meditation, if that's your thing. And again, oh yeah.
Ask you a question on the whole calm and sleep thing.
Yeah.
Another thing I've heard of is calm magnesium.
Yes. Yeah.
What is that, and is it worth looking into?
For sure. Magnesium is actually one of my favorite supplements. It's actually, I think, listed on one of these slides for supporting stress and gut health. It's also really great for sleep. That's why I love magnesium. It's pretty safe to take if you get it in the right form. It's not too hard on your body, so it can support you after periods of stress, because stress will actually deplete your magnesium in your body. Really great for supporting your digestive health because it'll soothe your digestive tract. So really great if you have issues with like leaky gut, bloating, gas, constipation, and also good for calming you before sleep. So Calm Magnesium is an actual brand, and it's like a powder that you can mix into hot water and drink before bed. So yeah, I actually do recommend that product. You can also take supplement forms of magnesium. So then stress, another good thing to note too is that it can decrease the good bacteria in your gut and also impact your mood. So you can see this this stat here, 90% of your serotonin is actually produced in your digestive tract, which is pretty crazy. So like think about that. Obviously, if your gut health is not optimal, you're not going to be in the best mood. Blood sugar levels can become unstable. Again, cortisol being released, some is good, but it can also impact your energy and mood, digestion, and hormones. Your sleep might be disrupted, and then stress can decrease immune function. They say about 70 to 90% of our immune health is actually in our digestive tract. So people who don't have strong digestive health typically don't have a good functioning immune system, are more susceptible to colds and other illnesses. Again, more ways to reduce stress. Find something that works for you. Like maybe you do actually like meditating. I think it's a really great form to reduce stress. Some people absolutely hate it. So I'm not going to sit here and say that you have to sit down and meditate every single day. Maybe for you it's getting outside. Maybe it's, walking, exercising. Maybe it's just eating better. So just find what works for you. And then the digestive health and stress supplements. Magnesium's the second one on here. So yeah, just make sure that you're getting support. The Calm Magnesium is a good brand that we were talking about, but if you are looking at other forms, maybe just make sure you're getting support from someone like myself or another natural healthcare practitioner. So just because some can actually cause things like constipation and be really hard on your body. Again, and then I won't go through all of these, but these are just some really great high-level ones that I recommend to a lot of my clients. Some helpful herbs, spices, plants. So you can see the peppermint, ginger, chamomile on there. Licorice root, turmeric, something you can easily cook with. ashwagandha. I know it sounds really fancy. It's not. You can get in like supplement or tea or powder form, same with holy basil. And then the rest, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but essentially I talk about some ways to boost your energy naturally. I just wanted to put these bonus slides in here just because, again, we're going through a weird time right now. A lot of people are having issues balancing their blood sugar. They're constantly snacking. Like, you're going to your fridge and you're like, why am I still hungry? Like, what is happening? So maybe try some of these options here. These will also be good for supporting your gut health as well. I won't talk about the caffeine today. I feel like that would just be too much. I don't want to, put you guys over the edge after I told you that you have to drink water. But coffee in moderation is fine. Just try and have like maybe 1, maybe 2 cups a day, okay? And then importance of sleep and how to improve sleep. And then that last slide, this was just a slide that I've just been like adding on to like every one of my presentations, basically how to stay healthy when working from home. So, making sure you're taking breaks, getting outside, getting some vitamin D, even if it is snowing in May, just try to get outside, practicing meal prep. So you have healthy snacks ready, and then you're not just like running to your cupboard and grabbing chips because that's all you have on hand. Obviously sleeping, keeping that regular schedule will be really helpful for you. So, sorry, I kind of just went through those last slides. They're kind of just bonus ones I wanted to touch on and also include for you to read after the fact. But if you have any questions now, I'm more than happy to answer them. But my email is here. So if you think of something after the fact, then I'd be more than happy to chat with you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nicole. And yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to type them in or shoot me an email. And I can ask Nicole now if we get them, or we can also maybe send an email to Nicole and ask her afterwards.
Yes.
A couple of things that just came to my mind. One is we're going to have a lot of trouble here at the office limiting coffee. That 1 or 2 is good for the morning, but maybe not all day. I think Anne can speak to that as well. She's the designated coffee maker downstairs in the morning. The other thing is the on hand. That's an interesting one, because I find that's part of my problem is when you're looking for a snack, it is whatever's easiest to grab.
Yes.
So it really does start at the grocery shop. If you buy the bag of chips, they will get eaten. Like, I can guarantee that in our household. So yeah, it really starts with not selecting that. And it's easier now with click and collect if, a lot of us are doing that. We're not walking up and down the aisles, seeing everything. Hopefully that makes it easier.
For sure.
And the other thing, it's interesting how tied nutrition is to some of the concepts of the stock market, what we talk about too, the whole behavioral thing, the stress, the flight instinct, fight or flight. We know a lot of the exact same things when it comes to investing. So it's neat how kind of these life concepts about wellness, whether be nutritionally or financially, rhyme. So not something I was expecting to see during this, but that's one thing that really did come to mind.
No, absolutely. And to your points there, yeah, having stuff on hand, like there's packaged options that are maybe a little bit healthier than, your typical like Dorito or, Lay's chips, even having just like a healthier cracker and hummus on hand. There's things that you can prep pretty easily, pretty cost effectively, like chia pudding. So like there's options out there. And with the coffee, I know that's like, I have a client who's cutting out coffee this week and I'm checking in with them on Friday and I'm scared. I'm a little scared. They know that they had to do it, but it's just, if you rely on coffee to get through your day, there could be another underlying issue that you might need to address. But coffee is also delicious, right? So I just say, you can have it in moderation. And then again, if you find that like after lunch, like you have to have a coffee, you can't get through your day, then it might be worth, looking in to see if there's, something else underlying that needs to be supported for sure. And I do see there is a question about gluten-free pasta. So I'm someone that doesn't tolerate gluten in large quantities. Like I can tolerate like sourdough bread, for example. So gluten-free pasta, if you get a good kind, then I say that's a great option. So again, like that chickpea lentil pasta, that's higher in protein. So again, for that quick meal where you don't have to like think about like adding like chicken or shrimp or whatever it may be. There's a brand called Chick-A-Pea and one called, I think, Good For You. If you want, I can look those up and also send those. But yeah, that could be an option if you are looking for gluten-free pasta. There's brown rice pasta, there's quinoa pasta. They're a little bit cheaper, but I just find they get like a little bit mushy. So like totally up to your preference for sure.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm going to do a quick unmute of Anne and Jess here,
Okay.
just so we can say hello to our clients.
Hi.
Hi.
We are planning to slowly ease ourselves back into the office a day here and there. We're thinking next week. We are still fully functional and working from home, but we're itching to get back. And as things we are an essential service, so we could actually be in the office. We've opted not to be just for health and safety reasons, but we're going to start implementing some of those procedures here so that we can come back into the office, 2 or 3 days a week to start, and then slowly transition, hopefully. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. And Nicole, thank you again. We really appreciate your time, and we will save this recording and share it with everyone else as well that couldn't make it.
My pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
One word. Thank you for all you do all the time.
Oh,
You guys do a great job. I just need to tell you that. So reach out. You're in touch. Even these things. I know. I just know I can talk to you or Ann or anytime. So thank you.
We appreciate
And
it.
Jess, thank you.
Thanks.
For rocking it. All right.
Bye.
We'll keep doing what we can.
You bet. I know.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.